Hey everyone, Plonkerboy900 here, back with another challenge video. Today's run is actually quite unique. At the time of recording this, I don't think I've seen anyone do this on YouTube, but I might be wrong. Today we find out, can I beat Pokemon Emerald with a new Pokemon every gym? You may have seen a couple of new Team Every Gym videos that have been floating around. For example, people like Zwiggo and MDB have both made videos like this. Today though, I'm going to be taking it a step further. I'm only allowed to use one Pokemon per gym, and after each successful gym victory, I need to replace it with a new Pokemon. To make things more interesting, I'm going to be implementing a rule similar to a Nuzlocke, where I can only catch the first Pokemon I find. There is actually one exception to this rule, but you'll see. What this means is that including my starter, which I will use until the first gym, I'll be using 9 different Pokemon, one for each badge and one after the 8th gym, which will be used for the remainder of the game. This means it's basically down to luck. We could get a Pokemon that's super effective against the first gym, or we could get something that is completely useless against it. Before we get started, shout out goes to these people who found the Dabbing Delibird in the last video. You already know he's in this one too, so comment down below with the timestamp if you see him, and you might get featured in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you don't, I'll probably cry myself to sleep. Anyway, let's get on with the challenge. I start the game and pick the female character, and call her Homura. As always, comment down below if you get the reference. Now for once in one of these runs, my starter does actually matter. To be honest, all 3 Pokemon are good against the first gym eventually, so I just decide to go for Trico, as it's my favourite of the 3. Anything but Mudkip. I nickname it Subscribe just in case you guys forgot. You don't really want me to cry myself to sleep, do you? And with it I take on the first gym leader, Roxanne. This was kind of an easy fight as to be expected. I didn't even need to evolve my Trico to win this fight, it was basically just a sweep with Absorb. Her first 2 Pokemon are both Geodude and they're 4 times weak to it, so they both go down in one hit, and her last Pokemon is Nosepass. Now this thing is quite bulky to be honest with you, and as you can see Absorb really doesn't do that much, but thanks to a lucky crit we're able to bring it down to red health, and after she heals up we can just take her out with 2 more. That was a pretty easy gym fight, but let's be honest, we all expected that anyway. Now we've got our first gym badge though, that means we need to catch a new Pokemon. I go to Route 116, as you can find Tailo here and I'd really like to have that as my Pokemon. And as luck would have it, we do actually get a Tailo. I catch it to replace my starter, and I just train it up a few levels. We now arrive in Dewford City, so I change the trendy saying to something a bit more appropriate, and take on the second gym leader, Brawly. Once again, I didn't even need to evolve Tailo to win this fight. Machop is up first and goes down in 1 wing attack, and Meditite's up next, but just goes for Focus Punch, so 1 wing attack takes that thing out too. We're already down to his final Pokemon, Makuhita, who does actually survive a wing attack just about, but he just goes for Bulk Up. Even after healing up with a Citrus Berry, 1 more wing attack is all we need, winning us the second badge in yet another easy victory. I decide to go to Granite Cave for my next Pokemon, as there's plenty of things that are decent against electric types. I was hoping for maybe a Sableye or an Aeron or something, but we end up getting a Makuhita. To be fair, I'm actually pretty happy with this. Watson has a Magneton which is weak to fighting, so this could actually really come in useful. I do some training with it and face off against Brendan, who starts with a Wingull. I need to be careful as we're weak to this thing's wing attack, so I go for a Fake Out to start, which actually does about half of its health, and from there a tackle's enough to finish it off. Combusken's up next and just goes for Focus Energy, so I hit back with a Vital Throw which does about half of its health. He then goes for a Peck but thankfully doesn't get a critical hit, which means we can go for 1 more Vital Throw for the knockout. We're now just down to his final Pokemon, Lombre, whose Absorb does hardly any damage. Not only that, we get a critical hit as well, and beat Brendan with absolute ease. Not only that, we also grow to level 24, which means our Makuhita's going to evolve into a Hariyama. I don't know why, but I've always really loved this Pokemon. We now take on the third gym leader, Watson, and this one did take a couple of attempts, but we did get the win eventually. He starts off with a Voltorb, so I go straight for the Fake Out, which actually does a lot of damage, and I was just going to finish it off with a tackle, but he decides to go for Self-Destruct. It hardly does anything though, and next up is Electrike, who does hit us with a Static, which is kind of a problem, but goes down in 1 Arm Thrust. Magneton's up next and goes for Sonic Boom, but this doesn't phase Hariyama as he's got such a huge HP stat, and a Vital Throw is an easy 1-hit KO. All that's left now is his final Pokemon, Manectric, who just decides to go for Howl for some reason. I land another Vital Throw which brings it down to low health, but even with him eating a Citrus Berry, we can tank a Shockwave and take it out with 1 more. Manectric goes down and that's 3 badges in our pocket already. Unfortunately, we do need to say goodbye to Hariyama though, so I decide to go to Route 112. You can catch Marill and Numel here, both of which are going to be good against the next gym. Our next encounter is a Marill, which to be honest is the one I wanted the most. I catch it to replace Hariyama, and train it some more levels, evolving it in the process. Before we can face the 4th gym though, we need to fight Maxi, but to be honest, Azumarill's pretty good against his team too. Mighty Ener's up first and almost goes down in 2 bubble beams, but his bites are hardly doing any damage to us at all, so even with him healing and hitting another bite, 2 more bubble beams are all we need. Zubat's up next, but come on, this thing's just not going to be a threat to anyone. Again, 2 bubble beams take it out no problem, and we're down to his final Pokemon Camerupt. In case you didn't notice, this thing is 4 times weak to water, so we just outspeed and KO with 1 single bubble beam. That was probably the easiest Maxi fight ever. Next up is Flannery, and as I said, she uses fire types, which means Azumarill's pretty much all we're going to need anyway. Numel's up first but goes down to a single bubble beam, as does Slugma, as does Camerupt, and we're already down to our final Pokemon Torkoal, who does actually survive a bubble beam, but her body slam does next to nothing, so 1 more takes it out and we win. That was pretty much the easiest gym fight in existence. This does mean though that we have to say goodbye to Azumarill, so for my next Pokemon, I head to the Fiery Path. I was hoping for a Slugma or maybe a Torkoal, as both are really defensive and good against normal types. We don't end up getting either of those though. The Pokemon we end up getting is a Koffing. I'm actually pretty happy with this though, as this is quite a defensive Pokemon as well. I catch it and do some training, and take on the 5th gym leader Norman. To be honest though, this just wasn't happening at the moment. Even at level 33 we just get absolutely destroyed by Vigoroth, and that wasn't even his strongest Pokemon. I do some more training until we evolve Koffing into Weezing, and this should give us the much needed boost in stats that we need. Or not. We get absolutely destroyed by Slacking this time, so for the first real time this run, I was going to need to do some grinding. I come back at level 38, and this time we do get the win. His first 3 Pokemon, Spinder, Vigoroth and Linoone, all get absolutely destroyed by Sludge, and we make it to Slacking with most of our health intact. I know for a fact this thing likes to go for counter, so on the turns he can attack I go for Smokescreen, and on the turns he's loafing around I go for Sludge. We also get the poison, which made this fight a lot easier, and I just keep on following this same strategy. He keeps on going for counter, so we can slowly whittle it down, and after he eats a Citrus Berry, he's in KO range now. Instead of attacking, he just goes for Yawn, which means that 1 more Sludge brings it down to a sliver of health, and the poison damage takes care of the rest. Slacking goes down and we earn ourselves the 5th badge. I travel just east of Morville for our next Pokemon, and it ends up being a Linoone. This isn't the most exciting Pokemon ever, but it's better than nothing I suppose, and it can learn some decent moves. I catch it and as always do some more training. I also do the little side quest in Morville City, where it dawned on me that I should have probably just caught my Pokemon here, as all the Pokemon here are electric types and the next gym is a flying type. Oh well, I'm just stupid I guess. There's another fight with Brendan here, but this was a really easy one. It's raining and we have to move Surf, so we just wipe the floor with his team, and move on to the 6th gym leader, Winona. She starts off with a Swablu, so I go straight for the Headbutt, which is actually enough for a 1-hit KO, and Tropius is up next. I go for Headbutt once again for decent damage, as she goes for a weak Aerial Ace. I go for a Shockwave this turn to make sure she doesn't heal, but she just goes for Synthesis anyway, but we do eventually whittle away until it goes down, and Pelipper is up next. I go for Shockwave as obviously this thing is 4 times weak to it, but she does just hang on and go for a Supersonic. I don't hit myself with Confusion though, 1 more finishes it off, and next up is Skarmory. We get some good Confusion luck and don't hit ourselves at all, and 3 Shockwaves are all we need for the knockout, and we're already down to our final Pokemon, Altaria. I go for the Headbutt hoping for a flinch, but we don't get it, as she starts setting up a Dragon Dance. Now she's faster, but she just goes for a second one, as I land 1 more Headbutt to bring it down to red health. She does eat an Oranberry though, which I think stopped her from healing up, but next turn she goes for a +2 Earthquake, but somehow we survive. Either Altaria is weak, or Linoone is a defensive beast. Either way, 1 more Headbutt finishes it off, and earn ourselves the 6th badge. It's time again to replace our Pokemon, so I travel east to Fortree City, and I was hoping for an Absol, but we end up getting a Mightyena. This is still great though, as Dark types are really good against Psychic types, which the next gym uses. I'm not gonna lie, I've had some pretty good luck with these Pokemon. Before we can face the 7th gym though, we have to face off against Maxi once again, who actually starts with his own Mightyena. I go for the Swagger and he actually does hit himself with Confusion, which is really nice, and I follow up with a Strength for decent damage. He then hits himself a second time but then heals up with a Super Potion, but a couple more Strengths bring it down to red health, and then he misses the takedown. This means we can take it out with one more strength. That was about as good as that could have gone. Crobat's up next, so I go for another swagger, but we too get confused. We don't hit ourselves in confusion though, and I'm able to hit the swagger, and once again he hits himself. I then hit a crunch which does good damage and lowers his special defense, and after him healing, 2 more crunches are all we need, and we're down to his final Pokemon Camerupt. I go for the crunch for decent damage, but he goes for amnesia, which means it's not going to do as much the next turn, so I instead go for strength, which does good damage as well, as he just goes for another amnesia. One more strength isn't quite enough to take it out, but we're just bulky enough to take the earthquake, and he doesn't heal the next turn, so 1 more strength is all we need. Now we can finally face off against Tate and Liza, and of course this is a double battle, so I just decide to bring along my starter, as it's my weakest Pokemon. They start with Xatu and Claydol, so I go for Crunch with Mightyena, and just throw a Pokeball with Grovyle. Crunch does a huge amount of damage and Grovyle gets taken out immediately, as Claydol goes for a Psychic but it doesn't do anything to Mightyena. 1 more crunch is enough to take it out, and next up is Solrock as Xatu just goes for Sunny Day. Another crunch on the Solrock does huge damage as well, bringing it down well into KO range, as Xatu just goes for Calm Mind. Solrock goes for a Flamethrower, but even though it's boosted by the sun, it hardly does anything, and even with them eating a Citrus Berry, 1 more crunch is enough to take it out, and Lunatone comes out next, as Xatu goes for another Calm Mind. At this point I'm pretty sure that Xatu can't hurt me, so I go for another crunch on the Lunatone, which once again is going to be a 2-hit KO, as that thing too goes for Calm Mind. A couple more hits take out the Lunatone, so now we've just got to deal with this Xatu, who once again goes for Calm Mind. This thing's special defense is boosted through the roof at the moment though, so I just decide to go for strength, but it doesn't do that much, as they set up the sun once again. Another strength brings it down to red health, as he actually goes for a move this turn which isn't Calm Mind or Sunny Day. We get confused by the Confuse Ray, but that's not really a problem, as after he heals up, a couple more strengths are all we need to take it out, thanks to a critical hit. Not gonna lie, that was a really weird fight. It's that time again to replace our Pokemon, so I decide to go into the Safari Zone this time. You can find some really interesting Pokemon here, and the one I end up getting is a Doduo. I have absolutely no problem with this, as Dodrio is a really fast Pokemon, and can hit super hard as well. This should definitely come in handy for the last gym. I evolve it into Dodrio, but before we can take on the 8th gym, we have to face Archie. This fight was never really a threat though. First up is Mightyena, who takes a lot of damage from our Tri-Attack, and just goes for Scary Face. He does heal up with the Super Potion the next turn, but that was probably the worst thing he could have done, as we outspeed him, so 2 more take it out no problem. We even get the unnecessary freeze. Crobat's out next and actually outspeeds Dodrio, but his wing attack really doesn't do that much damage either, and we do decent damage with the Tri-Attack. For some reason he goes for a Super Potion, as I go for 1 more Tri-Attack and get a burn this time. This means that after the residual damage from the burn, 1 more Tri-Attack is all we need to get the KO, but we do get hit by a Confuse Ray. Archie's final Pokemon is Sharpedo, and once again outspeeds us and hits a Slash, but fucking hell. But we survive it and do massive damage with the Drill Peck, and he might have been able to take us out the next turn, but he just goes for Taunt instead of attacking, so 1 more Drill Peck takes it out, and we beat Archie for the final time. The 8th gym leader is Juan, who uses water types, but this was quite an easy fight. His first 2 Pokemon Luvdisc and Celio go down in 1 Tri-Attack each, and next up is Kingdra. I go for another Tri-Attack and we get a lucky freeze, but unfortunately he thaws out immediately and goes for Double Team, which means we miss our next move. He goes for Rest the next turn and fully heals, and he has a Chesto Berry as well. I am able to land a second Tri-Attack though, as he hits back with an Ice Beam which does quite a lot of damage to us. We do survive the hit though and take it out with the Drill Peck the next turn, and next up is Whiscash. 1 Tri-Attack isn't quite enough for a 1-hit KO, but he just goes for Rain Dance instead of attacking me, and after fully healing with a Hyper Potion I just go for a Drill Peck, which is just enough to take it out, and we're already down to his final Pokemon, Crawdon. Once again I go for the Tri-Attack, which leaves him on the tiniest sliver of health, as he hits back with a Crab Hammer, but we somehow live the hit with 5 health remaining. I have no idea how we survived that. He does fully heal with a Hyper Potion, but we just go for a Drill Peck, and once again it's enough for a 1-hit KO. Crawdon goes down, and we've earned ourselves the 8th and final gym badge. This means we have just 1 more Pokemon left to catch, so I decide to go to Sky Tower. I used Repels until I got here so I wouldn't run into anything else, and our final Pokemon, the one I'll be using for the rest of this run, is a Sableye. This thing has no weaknesses, so it would be quite a good final Pokemon, but what if I told you this wasn't my final Pokemon? It was going to be, but then on the very next encounter, I found a shiny Claydol. I could not believe my luck with this, and there was just no way that I was going to not use this thing. I mean, come on, it's a shiny. It was the very next encounter as well, so it wasn't like I was searching for one or anything. So I think you can forgive me for bending the rules just a tiny bit for this one. Come on man, it's a shiny Pokemon, of course I'm going to use it. I aptly name it after rules, and train it up and teach it some new moves. This thing actually has a really good move pool, so it should actually be quite a good Pokemon for the rest of this game. I train it roughly to level 50, and before we can take on the Pokemon League, we have to fight Wally. He starts off with an Altaria, but we have the 4x super effective Ice Beam, so we just outspeed and take it out in one hit. Roselia's up next but is weak to Psychic, so it goes down in one hit as well, and next up is Delcatty. I go for the Earthquake, which is my strongest move on this thing, which does great damage as he just goes for Charm. He does fully heal with a full restore, but 2 Psychics are all we need for the knockout, and Magneton's up next. This thing's 4x weak to Earthquake, so even with our lowered attack, this is just complete overkill. His final Pokemon Gardevoir comes out and goes for a Future Sight, as I land another Earthquake for okay damage. We must have a speed tie as well as I outspeed the next turn, and hit one more as he goes for Double Team. This could be an issue, but after taking a Psychic, we just go for one more Earthquake which doesn't miss, and just like that, we beat Wally. So yeah, all we've got to do now is beat the Elite Four and the Champion, and I'm really happy with the Pokemon we've got. It is worth mentioning though, that of the 5 types we're going to have to face in the Elite Four and Champion fights, Claydol's actually weak to 4 of them, so we're not out of the woods just yet. First up is Dark-type user Sydney, but even at level 60 we still can't beat him. We beat his first Pokemon Mightyena no problem, but his second Pokemon Crawdaunt just completely wipes the floor with us. I had to do quite a lot of grinding just to beat this first member of the Elite Four, so I try again at level 65. His first Pokemon Mightyena goes down easily in 2 hits, and his next 2 Pokemon Shiftry and Cacturn both go down easily to an Ice Beam as well. Crawdaunt is up next, so I go for an Earthquake, and much to my surprise it's a one-hit KO, and now we're down to his final Pokemon Absol, so I just go for another Earthquake for another one-hit KO. It's really funny how just 5 levels can really make a difference. Phoebe's up next though, and this was another roadblock, as we're weak to Ghost, so I needed to train even more. By the time we beat her, we're level 72. Dusclops is up first and goes for Protect as I go for an Ancient Power, but next turn it fails and I get a critical hit as well. This means that after she wastes even more of my power points, one more Earthquake is all we need. Banet's up next and we're now able to one-hit KO with an Earthquake, and her second one goes down the exact same way. Next up is a second Dusclops, so I just go for a Psychic, which does over half of its health as we survive a Shadow Ball. She does heal with a Citrus Berry though, which means I have to go for Earthquake this turn, which has a higher base power, so it's just enough to take it out, and we're down to our final Pokemon, Sableye. I outspeed and go for another Earthquake, which much to my surprise is a one-hit KO, and we finally beat Phoebe. Next up is Ice-type user Glacier though, so that's another type we're weak against. This fight wasn't anywhere near as bad as the previous 2 though. Celio's at first, so I go for an Ancient Power which almost takes it out but not quite, as she sets up a Hail, and then fully heals with a full restore. One more brings it back down to red health, and I go for a third one and we actually get the stat boost. This is a 5% chance of happening, which is really lucky. What this means is the rest of the run is a lot easier, as we're buffed up for the rest of the match. Glalie up next but goes down in a single Earthquake, her second Celio goes down in one Ancient Power, and her second Glalie goes down in an Earthquake as well. Her final Pokemon is a Walrein, which is bulkier than the Celio so it survives an Ancient Power, and she hits back with a Surf, but because of our boosted stats, we survive the hit no problem. Even with her healing up with the Citrus Berry, a Psychic is all we need to get the KO, and just like that we've beaten Glacier. That was actually a lot easier than I was expecting it to be. The fourth and final member of the Elite Four is Drake, who uses Dragon types. Finally, a type that we're not weak against. Shelgon's up first and goes down in a single Ice Beam, and next up is Kingdra. I outspeed and go for the Earthquake, which almost takes out in one hit but not quite, as he goes for a Dragon Dance. Of course he then fully heals with a full restore, as one more Earthquake brings it down to low health. He does outspeed this turn though and go for a Surf, which does okay damage I suppose, as we just take it out with the Psychic. I'm not going to lie to you, the rest of his team is just a complete sweep. All 3 of his remaining Pokemon are 4 times weak to Ice, so 1 Ice Beam each is all we need. I never expected Drake to be the easiest of the Elite Four. Now that we've beaten the Elite Four, all that stands between us and victory now is the champion Wallace. Of course he uses Water type, so we're weak to that as well, so this was by no means an easy fight. First up is Wailord, who takes massive damage from an Earthquake, and hits back with a Blizzard for decent damage. I just finish it off with a Psychic the next turn, and next up is Tentacruel, who just goes down to 1 Earthquake as it's super effective. Whiscash is up next, so I go for another Earthquake, which does massive damage and he just goes for Amnesia, so we can just take it out with one more, and Milotic is up next. This is the strongest Pokemon on his team, so I'm kinda scared of this thing. I just go for another Earthquake and it actually brings it all the way down to red health, as he just goes for a Toxic instead of attacking. He does of course heal up, but 2 more Earthquakes take it out no problem, and Ludicolo is up next. I go for Psychic, which does about half of its health, as once again he could have taken us out, but he goes for Double Team. This AI is making some very strange choices. I take it out with one more Psychic, and now we're just down to his final Pokemon Gyarados, but we are not in good shape at all. The Toxic damage leaves us on just 12 health, so I need to take it out in this one turn. I go for Psychic because it's my strongest move, but it only does about half, and we get taken out by a Surf. So close but so far. This is 100% doable though, so I keep trying. The very next attempt though I make it back to Gyarados, and this time we're in much better shape. Once again I go for the Psychic, which does about half its health, but he just goes for Dragon Dance this turn. You thought that was weird though? Then he just goes for the Earthquake. Wallace, what are you doing? This means I can just go for one more Psychic to take it out, and just like that we've done it. We beat Wallace, and beat Pokemon Emerald using a new Pokemon every gym. As you know though, that isn't the final boss of this game. We still have to face Steven. As you can see by my level, this took a lot of attempts, but we did eventually get the win. Skarmory's up first, so I go for the Ancient Power, and we actually get the boost on the first turn. To make things better, he just goes for Spikes, which means I can go for an Ice Beam the next turn for good damage, as he misses the Steel Wing. This was insane luck, as this thing was probably the most difficult Pokemon on his team to beat. It goes down to one more Ice Beam though, and Aggron is up next. It just goes down in one Earthquake though, as it's 4 times weak to it, and next up is Cradily. I have the super effective Ice Beam, so I go for it, and it does well over half as we get confused by a Confuse Ray. Thankfully we don't hit ourselves in confusion though, and one more Ice Beam is enough to take it out. The Breath is up next, so I go for another Ancient Power, as we snap out of Confusion. It does well over half and his Slash hardly does any damage, so one more takes it out, and next up is his ace, Metagross. Normally this thing would terrify me, but we're +1 and we have the super effective Earthquake, so it just goes down in one hit, and we're just down to his final Pokemon, which is his own Claydol. I outspeed and go for the Ice Beam, which does huge damage as he just goes for Reflect. This means I can outspeed and go for one more to take it out, and that is it. Steven goes down and we finally win the run. Overall, I've got to say, this was probably one of my favourite runs in a long time. It was just a really interesting way to play the game, and I ended up using some Pokemon that I wouldn't normally use. Stuff like Weezing and Azumarill I'd never really paid much attention to, but every single Pokemon proved themselves useful, and I can't say I really had a single bad Pokemon. Obviously my favourite is the shiny Claydol we got towards the end. I just couldn't believe my luck. It also doesn't hurt that Claydol was actually pretty damn good, especially considering that most of the Elite Four were actually super effective against us. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please consider leaving a like, and let me know if you want to see me do this on another game. I'd 100% be down for that. If you've got any other suggestions, then just leave them in the comments below, and subscribe if you're new. Also, huge thanks goes to PTIs for becoming a tier 2 member of the channel. If you're interested in becoming a member, then just click that join button below. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that, then all the links you need are in the description below. Also, join the Discord and send me a dabbing Delibird. That's pretty much all I've got for you today, so thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.